I'm just gonna be making faces at you during the podcast.
Dinner and BDSM.
I'm waiting for you to click it so I can click on her. I have to wait.
I do not feel comfortable with my food in I said, the first time I'm like live on a podcast, and it's like, here, go ahead.
We're casual. We're casual.
Yeah, this is something you can do while eating, and
You know, we could just talk about things
there's
while
such thing as
eating.
hardcore
True. Dinner and kink.
Sounds like the.
Yeah.
Well, you see, I really like.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. Daniel, Stephanie.
Hi.
Daniel.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Doing well.
Daniel has made a full course meal for me, so pardon if we're eating, but like I came here to do an interview and he's like, but you gotta eat. Of course I do. Of
That's
course.
totally cool. That means
Yeah, because I'm hungry. I'm gonna eat.
yeah, you can't be hangry.
Yes. Cannot.
And when I gotta eat.
But how are you today? How was your day?
It was good, quiet. I did a lot of chores today.
You were rearranging. Were you feng shuiing, like they say?
Yeah, I was like fixing everything. I took the couch out of my room. I did a couple things. I'm a little tired, but we'll be alright.
Cool. This is why we're having this relaxing talk, though. Like,
What happened?
I said this is why we're having this relaxing talk, though. Can you hear us good, though?
Yeah, let me grab my AirPod.
I couldn't bring my AirPod today because I only have one. She lost the other one and only gave me one AirPod.
I only have one. I was about to buy one off some girl that I saw today.
Well,
she was selling one on my timeline.
I need
And
to
I was like, you know what?
actual-
Matter of fact, I only need one right now. Like,
You can actually
not
order
like
a replacement.
yeah, isn't it like $70 or something? Yeah, it's like, yeah. I'll
This
probably
is why
just
you need smart friends, people.
Yeah,
I did not know that.
You can call Apple and tell them you need a replacement for the left or the right.
It's the left one. It's the left one I need too. See? That's how we're like connected.
I don't even remember how I lost
So we have, let's see how many people are up on here right now. I don't know, can you see it on your side?
I see
we have
five.
like 10 people. I see
But
five.
then again, last time I couldn't see the comments. Remember, I couldn't see really much.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I guess because it's your live.
So we have Daniel, who has been in this, I say game, or is it game or business?
Lifestyle.
Lifestyle. That is the correct way of saying it. Has been in this lifestyle for 25 years?
18 years.
18 years?
Roughly about 18 years. I had a little bit of a break while I was married.
Okay.
But, yeah, I got into it about 18 years ago.
Not bad. So what brought you into doing this?
So, interestingly enough, I had a girlfriend at the time, 18 years ago, and we were dating for a while, and she recognized some dom qualities in me, and she thought, you know what, I'd really like to get into this. I've kind of interacted with some doms online, and I'd really like to explore this, you know. And she's like, this is kind of something I want to be able to explore. So, you know, if we're going to be together, you know what, I kind of want you to kind of figure it out, you know. So I'm like, all right. And I said, well, I mean, I'm going to go do my research.
Yeah.
I didn't really care her perspective on it.
Yeah.
I'm like, if I'm going to find the perspective, I'm going to find my own perspective. So I started doing some reading online, and I ordered some books online. A great book for beginners who are considering or thinking about it is called Screw the Roses, Give Me the Thorns.
We're going to be putting up links.
I'm going to write that. I'm just here because I want to learn about like all perspectives, really.
So it's a great book for people especially couples who have never, and they're both kind of considering. There's kind of a great little story in the book about a guy who was talking to a couple, and separately he spoke, I think, to the wife, and separately he spoke to the husband, and it turned out they were both interested in doing some kind of kinky stuff and kind of, spicing things up and figuring it out, and they both decided, you know what. And he's like, "Listen, I'm gonna out both of you to each other because you're both asking for the same thing. You're not talking to one another."
Yeah.
And, that's why I think one of the primary things about BDSM is communication. I mean, you see things in the movies and the stories, and it's always got this bad connotation. But the real people who are really doing it, you know what? They have respect for one another. You know what? They not necessarily love one another, because there are people who interact who, do not have emotional feelings for each other, but they do care about each other.
Okay.
So there's nothing wrong with caring for somebody and doing BDSM. You don't necessarily have to love them, but many people do, are in loving couples. It's all about respect and communication. And you get these people, out there who think, it's all about just, smacking some ass.
And getting into my next question, what is BDSM? Because a lot of people think it's just torture.
Yeah, because, I mean, going back to the respect thing that he was talking about, because from the research that I did, and honestly, guys, I only did a couple minutes because I've had such a crazy day. I only had like 15 minutes. So, I mean, the references that were used, what I saw, it says, the references that are used are like sir, ma'am, master, mistress. So it's nothing of disrespect. Like, it's not like what people, I don't know.
So there's two major aspects, what to BDSM. And some people do it without the sir, the ma'am, and everything else.
There's different types, right?
One is, BDSM as a whole, when you break down what BDSM stands for, B and D. So the first
I have that as well. I have
is bondage and discipline.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's also, DS, so dominance and submission.
Okay.
And then
I have
S&M,
that.
which it starts to deal with the sadomasochism. It's and that's where that's where the scary part comes in. That's where stuff comes in, and that's where people get really freaked out. But when you think about it, it's the scariest aspect. But when you dial it down to just about nothing, there are lots of people out there who like to get spanked.
Yeah, I do.
They just don't talk about it.
They don't talk about it. But
That's
the fact
problem.
is, the person who's doing the spanking is the sadist, and the person who enjoys the spanking is the masochist. It doesn't necessarily. It doesn't necessarily mean that somebody is getting, abused.
Or like,
Now, there are people who like to do more extreme things.
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
They didn't start by doing those extreme things. They started with things like spanking.
Mm-hmm.
And they decided that the person they were with, they trusted, and they wanted to explore a lot more different things. And quite honestly, the more educated you are about the type of thing that you're doing, the better off you will be, the safer you will be, and the more you can trust the person you're doing it with.
I do feel like, I feel like if you do things like you live a BDSM lifestyle, I feel like those people have more communication or trust than a regular, I don't even know what to call it. Is it a heterosexual relationship?
I was about to ask him. The way that it's turned around and looked so wrong, because they look at it like, it's like one's higher than the other, but it's a power exchange. That's
so the idea of power exchange is
awesome.
So before we get to the power exchange, let me explain, what some of the roles. And I'm going to also preface that with out there, I am not the most knowledgeable, and I am not the most experienced person out there. So if there are people watching and listening, who have greater experience or greater knowledge, certainly feel free to comment,
chime in.
I am, you know what, I feel like I have enough knowledge, you know, what to really give to kind of the beginners and kind of help set the picture. So you have, you know what, three main roles, you know what, or should I say, perhaps leanings: dom, submissive, and switch. Now these are more for power exchange, but there are also other terms that can be interchangeable. So, for instance, one is top and one is bottom. That is just a general category. It refers to the person who is doing versus the person who is receiving.
Yeah.
But does being a top or bottom change the dynamic of a relationship? Does it change?
It certainly can. So, for instance, often, you know, what dominants are the top and submissives are the bottom. But that's not always the case. You can have a bottom who prefers to be in control and tells the other person what to do. So you have a person who is a bottom who is actually dominant. And you can have a submissive who is a top, the person doing, but she's being told what to do or he's being told what to do. And again, you know, at gender roles, you know, although I typically am, you know what, the male top, and I only partner with submissive females. That's not always the case with everybody. They mix it up drastically. There's many female doms, female tops, and submissive men, men who are bottoms.
Would females be considered the dames, right? Or
Well,
they be considered doms?
Truthfully,
as
I know, and I've said it. I have personally said this. I've said dame, but the fact is it's really pronounced dom. But when you spell it, it's D-O-M-M-E, kind of like femme, which is F-E-M-M-E.
Gotcha.
So often I say when I'm speaking to somebody, I will say dame because I want to kind of indicate that, you know, it's a female dom. When I probably should be saying femdom or something else. But
is there a different wording for it? Because I was like, I see it.
It really, the problem is, you know, with this lifestyle, many people have different wordings for everything. So I always try to educate myself and always kind of try to be aware. What is it that people prefer? So I don't have a lot of experience in that space, but
we're all part of the LGBTQ community. We respect you. We love you. We're allies.
Word.
Yep.
Throwing that out there just in case. We're all members.
Funny,
yes.
You know what? I've been to Pride, but you know what? I'm kind of the minority Pride. I'm the, you know what, the straight white male, you know what, in the kink community. So I'll go to Pride. I don't have any problem with it. Definitely hang out. There's a great organization for people who are in San Diego. I'm going to plug them a little bit. It's called Club X.
There are places in New York and New Jersey that I have found, and I will drop the locations for everybody so that if you're interested in these clubs that he's about to get into, they'll be more in your local area. Now, if you're in, what was the joke? If you're in Idaho or Indiana, you might not have one.
Yeah, if you're in a remote area, you might have a difficult time trying to find a kink club.
Well, we found one for Indiana, so it might be Idaho that doesn't have one.
But that's more of a joke, but it could really be anywhere. If you're in a remote area, you might have a more difficult time. But if you try to look towards a major city, you will probably find one. So in San Diego, Club X has been around for a long time. It's actually very interesting. I was in Club X 18 years ago. And so it was really interesting. So for a brief time, so I was married. My wife, you know, passed away last year. And, you know, when she passed away, I was like, you know what, well, I'm really going to kind of go back to exploring this. And so one of the first things I did was go to see if I could find Club X again. And lo and behold, they were still around. I was really happy. And so I signed up and, you know, went to the new member orientation because it had been quite a while.
They have orientations?
That's crazy.
I know you said that they have classes. I didn't know if there was
Anytime you sign up to become a member, now if you're not going to be a member, you don't necessarily have to go to the organization, but the reason that if you become a member, they certainly want to let you know, and also to kind of also give you the foundation. You know what? Here are, you know what? Here are the pronouns. You know what? Here are the here's some of the etiquette. You know, here's a really good example. You know what, a dom, you're like, hey, I'm a dom. I'm gonna show up to this kinky, you know what, coffee where you know what, kinky people are gonna socialize. They're gonna hang out, and they tell you, you know what, listen, you don't touch a submissive. You really technically you don't really touch anybody without their consent.
Yeah,
which is what we talked about last week.
So you think, you know, oh,
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you a hug. You want a hug?
Yeah, it's different from
don't
what
want a
people may
hug.
think.
Some people don't want to hug. Some people don't want to be touched. You know.
Yeah, exactly.
And I've been in situations where, you know, a female dom thought she kind of wanted to. She was a little interested in me. Thought she might, you know, see if she could, you know, kind of, you know,
Push up on you.
yeah, push up on me. So
She wanted to show who was, you know, more dominating.
and really, so you know what? She put her hand on my arm, and I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, you know?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I'm dom only. I don't switch. So you know what?
Is there a
you gotta
sign
respect
or
them.
something that you know that another person's a dom or something?
No, but you know what?
Is there like something that someone gives off?
Like a radar,
arm
maybe.
touch, or
So
is it like a certain
some people certainly have said. I've been approached by someone and said, you know what? Oh, you. I've had a few people go, wow, you look unmistakably like a dom. I'm like, well, thank you. I appreciate that. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if you can quantify that. However, you know what? There are certain people who will be very either outspoken or be very clear in that they are either a submissive or a dom. Now, usually the best place to start is start having a conversation.
Someone comes in and it's like it's like a sticker. Hi, my name is Steph and I'm a switch.
Basically.
Not bad. Usually, though,
That one was good stuff.
That's a good one.
That's a perfectly fine way to introduce yourself. You walk up to somebody and have coffee, and you're like, "Hey, you know what? Yeah, hey, my name is Daniel. You know, I'm a dom, and you know."
Is there something else?
It would be normal in an environment.
So the only thing I could say, the only thing that's so there's two interesting things. So if you look up the BDSM emblem project, it's a really great way. It's a really great emblem, and you know, back in the day, I actually used to have a necklace that I could wear, and I've actually heard stories of other people who had either a necklace or a belt buckle, or you know, I know they even make cufflinks and different things.
Yep,
But
I was on the website. It's on my
laptop. Look like that he's referencing to.
And so that was a really great way. And I actually have I recently purchased an emblem decal that I'm going to put on my car. And I think it's a great way to kind of let people in the know who know what that is. So if you're educated and you know the emblem, you see somebody else.
So I put a pineapple.
Sometimes you can approach them, but you have to do so carefully because not everybody lives their lifestyle in the open. I do.
Yeah.
So I don't really mind someone coming up to me and going, hey, I see you're in the lifestyle, and I'd certainly be willing to have a conversation with them. Other people, but if you wear the emblem, you're pretty much kind of, you know, advertising.
Giving it up.
I'm in a lifestyle, you know what, and if you see me, you might want to approach me. So.
You heard him. He said approach him. Approach him.
Basically.
So is it like, is it poly that has the pineapple?
I don't know.
Or is that for swingers? I think that's swingers that has a pineapple. Somebody else, either swingers or poly, I will do my research, people, but they have a pineapple. So if you see a pineapple on someone's car and you go that way, that's for you.
Very interesting.
Do you have any questions, Steph?
I had something here, but I mean, I already discussed it basically because I basically had a question in regards to like I guess the lingo between is a BDSM like a relationship, or that's just, I guess that's my question. Like, could a BDSM relationship exist? Or like,
do you mean like you could have like a regular relationship, or do you mean like it's like always that type of relationship?
Yeah. Like, is it all right, for example, like
people that
like BDSM hide it, right? So we all agree that a lot of people that like BDSM hide it, right?
So the answer truly is yes.
Right?
The question is what degree you have your relationship. some people only have BDSM in the bedroom. The rest of the life is completely, you know what, they don't really talk about it. They don't really discuss it. But when they go in the bedroom and they close the door, you know what, they get their kink on, you know.
It's like
Yeah.
Other people live the lifestyle and they intermingle work and, their regular lifestyle, and, you know, they might get, you know, kinky text messages during the day, or, they might have that dynamic in their relationship throughout their day with their significant other. Other people, now there are some people, another thing that we haven't really discussed is what they call master and slave. And it's power exchange, but what they refer to is it's a total power exchange. Mm-hmm. You know, usually where the slave is directed to do almost everything. Mm-hmm. Now, that's not for everybody, but
disclaimer.
It's I would say a lot of work has to go into that relationship before you get to that point. So if you're on a dating site and the person's going, you know what, listen, I'm looking for a slave.
No.
Or the person's going, you know what, I'm looking for a master. The chances are that those people are not truly real. There, you know, a lot of scammers and fakers out there who say they want that in order to
get domestic violence charges.
No, but what they do is they try to get you to move them out to where they are, and they say, well, I'm a slave, but
so
you know what?
Care of me?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
absolutely.
So they want a sugar daddy? Can't they just go to the sugar daddy?
So this is a good point to bring up, because I've gotten, like, I want to say, like, over 30 DMs throughout my whole Instagram career, like that. Like, I want to be your slave. Like, that's always what I've got. Like, I always knew, like, that was mad weird.
So maybe for men, I would say that's maybe a little bit more real in terms of people who want to do that. But see, for instance, you know, I'm on certain, you know, dating websites, single websites, where I get messages from women who claim, you know what, they are slaves and they want a master all the time. And, you know, once I start digging down into it, and I'm not necessarily opposed to having a slave, but it's a lot of work. And I would really have to say it would have to be somebody who, you know, where I've actually developed quite a consistent relationship with. You know, I'm not going to, you know, take on a slave who's in New York and says she wants a master and she wants me to, you know, put all this time and effort into her. And I'm like, I don't even know if you're real. I don't know if you're.
Yeah.
Now, there are rare situations where you can become connected. Sure, there might be somebody in New York where, you know, I do get connected and we do video chat and we actually really establish relationships. We actually visit one another. And then, you know what, we eventually talk about, you know, her moving out. But those are going to be very extremely rare. So yeah. Now what I do find often is people start in a dominant and submissive relationship, mm-hmm. and they spend many years together. And they start thinking about it, and then they start contemplating, listen, you know what, the submissive, you know what, says, well, you know what, I really want less control. And the dominant goes, you know what, I think that would work. And they decide, you know, that they're going to live a master and slave relationship. I know people.
Oh, I do too.
In their lifestyle, who actually have master and slave relationships.
They don't want to call it that, but I know people.
I know people who openly call it that, and that's perfectly fine. The key here is everybody agrees.
Yes,
that's the whole thing. Yeah,
nobody is doing
that's the difference.
And so one of the things I want to tell you, you know what. And if there are any women out there, or men, sorry, I primarily interact with women. If there are any submissives out there who say, you know what, you have a dom telling you, well, you're not really a submissive unless you do what I say, or you're not really a submissive unless you do this or do that. Listen, you either put them to the wayside or make sure you educate yourself and put up some boundaries, because that person is trying to manipulate you to doing something you don't want to do. And to me, this is not everybody, but to me, if the person isn't enthusiastic about what they're doing, if they're not really into it, you shouldn't be doing it.
That's true. Yeah. In anything you do.
So.
Literally. I feel like whatever you can do behind closed doors, if you're doing it behind closed doors, why can't you do it like in a out there setting? Like that's how people like get hurt that way. Like if they're not like.
So when we start talking about safety, safety becomes a very big thing. When you first start out in BDSM, a big thing is a big term that they use is safe.
Well, the next thing I was gonna ask, like, how
safe,
are you safe?
Sane, and consensual. If you are not subscribing to at minimum safe, sane, and consensual.
You said safe, sane, and consensual?
Correct.
Okay.
Sane, right? Like, look at me.
That's why I was making sure he
right?
said sane.
Gotta stay good.
I was catching that.
Yeah.
So,
hey, Tiff.
So, for instance, you know what? Say for you, say you were just starting out, and you're like, I want to explore in a submissive. So I'm not sure what your interested is. I'm just going to use this as an example. You're like, I want to be submissive, and you know what? I'm interested. What is sane for you? And you're like, oh, I want to get spanked. And then you start talking to some doms, and you're like, okay, well, I got one. And the dom's like, you know what? Well, you know what? I want to whip you. And you're like, whoa.
That's off out of the, yeah.
That's not sane for you.
Yeah.
Oh,
then
okay.
Guess what? That's off the table.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you start building that trust, and then he's like, hey, listen, you know what? I really like to do whips. I'd like to show you. And you've already established some trust, and you're like, okay, that seems sane at this point.
Okay. Ooh, there's somebody else up on here who says she's a dom too.
Yeah, I saw that.
You have questions up in here then, girl.
Oh yeah, go right ahead.
Statements.
Please, please do.
But you know, it's a lifestyle that you have to like dive into, right? Like
it is a lifestyle, and I want to tell you, if you dive into it without really thinking about your safety, and I must say this too, for doms too.
Wait.
For doms too.
Where would the doms have to worry about their safety if they're the ones in control?
So, you get a submissive who is, you know what, either maybe had an emotional breakup recently, or doesn't have good boundaries herself, and you know what, agrees to things that she's not really ready for, doesn't really communicate her solid boundaries, and guess what? A dom places himself in a position of vulnerability. Him or her, excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
And that dom has to protect himself too, because the fact is you know what? When you get in the lifestyle, you want to, guess what? You want to interact with other kinky people, right? The only thing you have as a dom and a sub or a switch, excuse me, I'm not always putting in all the terms, is your reputation. Mm-hmm. If you go into the lifestyle, and guess what? If I'm a dom and I hurt somebody, or I don't respect their boundaries, what do you think is going to happen? That submissive or that switch is going to tell everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Now where am I? You know what? Guess what? Nobody wants to play with me. Nobody wants to be in a relationship with me.
You got a bad rep from this one miscommunication.
So the question becomes, you know what? How careful are you in vetting your partners?
Yeah.
How careful are you in respecting their boundaries? How careful are you in ensuring that they communicate their boundaries? Because if I'm with a submissive and I'm like, so what are your boundaries? And she's like, I don't know. Do whatever. I'm like, nope.
All right. Yeah, you're like, nah.
You don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, you don't know what you like, you don't like.
You haven't explored, you haven't, researched, you're not educated, you don't know what you're doing, and you want to jump in. You know what? Sorry, I'd be like, you know what, here's some resources, take some time, educate yourself, you know what, or, you know what, we have a lot of conversations, you know what, at a public place, in a restaurant or something like that, and I educate you, but you don't come to my playroom, you don't come to my dungeon, you don't come to my bedroom until you know yourself.
Yeah. Communication, seriously, it's the only way.
So there's a great test you can take that kind of really helps you start to know yourself.
Yes.
Called BDSMtest.org.
Okay.
Now, from my understanding, there are a lot more other tests, but that's the only one I'm familiar with. I take that one.
There's 2 parts. You can either take the full test or you can take the partial test, which gives you generalized results, but if you take the full one, it gives you like a good.
What does it tell you? Like what you are?
It tells
Like,
you
it'll
what
be
you're
like, hey.
It tells you what it tells you is right now your current state. Okay, so
Nice.
today you might be, you know what? Listen, when I take the test, mine is pretty hard coded. So Dom, top, rigger, these are all like 100%. Now, as it starts to get down there, you starts to evaluate some of your other things. You know, are you into non-monogamy? Are you a daddy or a mommy? You know what? Are you?
Do you like to be urinated on?
Do you like to?
That was the worst
like
question
that.
for me.
That's
Are
crazy.
do you like to watch other people? Do you like to be watched? You know, are you a voyeur? Are you an exhibitionist? Do you like to experiment? Are you do you like to experiment with new stuff? Some people like pain. Some people do not like pain.
No.
Some people like to. Some people like to be kind of, you know, with, often you hear daddy little girl, DDLG. You know what? And I have personally had a little. I have had some DDLG kind of dynamic, but without the age play. I'm not really into the age play.
Now,
a little weird.
We have to get into that in a whole, like, we have to make this a whole nother thing, like another parter where we get into the different types of kinks and things that are in this lifestyle, because there's a whole.
The kinks are endless.
Yeah, like.
Yeah, I literally.
Just doing this test alone opened up my mind to like, well, wait.
What was it, guys? BDSMtest.com?
.org. BDSMtest.org. And it is free, guys. You don't have to pay for it. You just click what you want to do, either the short test or the long test.
I always recommend the long test. And if you actually do sign up for the account, the cool thing is the next time you sign in, your results will still be there.
And then you get to see where you've changed, where you've grown, where you've matured.
Not even necessarily matured, but you definitely will change. You know what? You could be, you know what, very dom today, and then decide, you know what, after, you know what, a year or two, you decide to explore, you know, being a sub or maybe switching. And then you retake those tests just to kind of find out where your interest is. And you're like, wow, you know what, I'm answering these questions differently.
Yeah, like, I don't know. I feel like as I get older, I kind of want to know more. I feel like I want to know more. I feel like I'm 28. I don't have no shame in my age, you know? So I feel like I'm at a point where I've had sex with men. I've had sex with women.
Cheers.
There's not one that I prefer, you know, either way. Like, I can go either way, and I can literally go either way. I like both the same. I can't pick one. You know what I mean? Sure. And I just feel like, okay, I've been single for like literally 7 years, like no relationship, nothing.
You have like, you're not gonna settle for anybody though.
So yeah, and I feel like I have a lot of experience with both sexes, so it's like, it's actually like, I feel like my sex drive sometimes is too much, and I have to like dumb myself down. Like, I don't like certain things. No, I literally have to like.
I wasn't pointing at him like, you know, like saying
no, you know what I mean. Like,
I was saying just in general.
Yeah, because I don't know. See, with the terms, I'm kind of like whatever. Like, what is it like? Is it a metrosexual when a person is like just stuck on one? Like like if a man, like a man, like if I want a man, he's usually straight.
I would love to answer that question. I actually want to do my own research and actually find out.
Yeah, because
I
it's just like they think a certain way, and it's like they don't open
the demisexual.
Yeah,
I'm not quite sure those terms. Yeah. I can't speak with any authority.
We will get more educated on that, though. We will learn the different types of sexualities on this wonderful weekly conversation.
Yeah, I don't want to say the wrong one. That's why I'm just like stopping myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you guys get what I'm saying.
There is one that you're trying to reference to where it's like you're only attracted to one person at a time, no matter what the gender is, you know. But there is a term, and well,
I'm not like that. Like, I could be with somebody and I'm attracted to another person and I don't feel guilty about it, and like, it's almost like I'm supposed to feel guilty about it, but I feel like it's like natural.
It's remember, like we talked about last week, it is what we're taught basically in society.
Yeah.
We're taught that, and women get married, have babies, grow old
Yeah.
together, die together. You know, that's what we're shown in movies and things like that. So you feel wrong when you look at somebody else and you're just like, oh, but they cute, but I shouldn't do this. Like it's something that like it's breaking out. What is it? Breaking out of
paradigms.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, when you look at it, I mean, you think, you know what, you know, the 50s or earlier, you know what, we had a lot of, you know what, mom and dad, you know what, families, and you know what, that was kind of the ultimate picture. That was, you know, what, the Norman Rockwell picture, you know, what that got painted, you know what, the mom and dad and 2.5 kids, you know what, depending on what the situation was, but you know what, all that stigma kept families together. All the stigma helped keep families together more. Well, let's give you that. Give me a second. It kept families together more, which on one hand was a good thing, but on the other hand, you know, there are a lot of people who were unhappy. You know what? Men who thought, you know what, they were because they were the head of the household, they had this power over everybody else, and everybody was inferior.
My point is,
and
like,
you know what?
It was a different type of power though at that time too. It was like,
and then
crazy.
and this is my view. This is my personal view. We see, I think, what happens is a pendulum swing. We say, you know what, men are all the power, and women have nothing. And then you see, you know what, women go, you know what, no, screw that. And then the pendulum starts to swing, right?
Yeah.
And then the women, you know what, have the power, and you know what, then we find, you know, wow, there are submissive men out there. You know, and that pendulum, I think, is going to swing kind of back and forth, because I think that's something that continues to happen over time. But as a society, we change, and that picture changes. So no longer it's no longer, you know what, husband and wife, you know, a heterosexual relationship. It's now, you know, a really vast topic.
It's so many different types.
Absolutely.
I mean, so when you went back to the lifestyle, would you say that since you didn't have it, you had it under wraps for 18 years with your wife, or you just like people knew about it when you went back to it, or people around you didn't know about
your
it?
Wife, did you guys people were aware that you guys were in this lifestyle?
No, because me and my wife, when we were together, she couldn't live it openly. So
so now that you have it out in the open, do you feel like after you came out with it on the open, the people around you, like, do you think that they judged you for it, or was it like whatever?
A few people didn't understand, but for the most part, everybody, you know, really understood. I mean, you know what?
Yeah, I mean, if they love you, they're gonna accept you no matter what.
I love, you know what? So I was married, and I have, you know, 4 stepchildren after my wife passed. You know what? They don't have a mom anymore.
That's so cool.
And you know what? I pretty much at some point kind of informed all of them, because they're all old enough. And I'm like, you know what, listen, I did have a girlfriend for a short while who was also my submissive. And, you know, when she came over and she had dinner with me, you know what, it didn't matter if, you know, my daughter was here. She wore her collar. And we haven't really talked too much about collars, but
yeah, I want to get into that.
That's what I'm saying. There's like so much.
I'm like, I want to say stop right there.
We just touched just getting into the relationship. That's all we're touched right now.
This is a deep topic. So now, in the old days, you know what, a collar meant, you know what, it meant that if you gave somebody a collar, it was almost the equivalent of being married. You know what?
Okay.
And often you would hear, you know what, someone say, you know what, like, you know what, you are mine. You belong to me. Now,
like a ring, but just a collar.
Exactly, because what it is it's an external representation of that power dynamic, that power exchange relationship.
Okay. That makes sense.
Does that make them your pet, or like what's the purpose of the collar?
The collar is basically, I'm the dom and you're my submissive.
He's saying that she's his.
It's really a commitment to one another. It has nothing. Now there is pet play. So let's separate pet from everything else.
Oh, okay. So wearing a collar does not mean you do pet play.
No, wearing collar does not mean you do pet play.
Okay, that was my question.
But if you wear a collar, if you do pet play and you wear a collar, then you are most likely a submissive. Someone
says, are you in control when the collar goes on? Like, is the sub in control when the collar goes on, or is it like something that automatic, or is that something you have to discuss, like when the collar comes on?
So there's a lot around it. when you think about the collar. So first of all, it's a this is I'm going to tell you the way I approach it, and this is not the way everybody approaches it. But I look at this as some people collar themselves. And they're like, well, I'm collared to myself. I'm like, okay. To me, that doesn't necessarily make sense, but that's their take on it. For me, if I put a collar on somebody, it means I have at the very minimum a commitment to look out for you. Now, it might be we go to a party, and I have my submissive, and then I have a friend of my submissive, and she wants to be under my protection for the evening, and so I have a collar for her, and I put a collar on her.
Oh, so her friends gotta wear collars too to be under your protection?
Not gotta be.
Oh, you wanna be.
She wants to be. This is a communication thing.
It always needs to be a choice. If you're not choosing it, then there's no point.
Yeah.
I don't put a collar on somebody who doesn't want it. What's the point?
Okay, so let's
because
say
then
my
it means
homie,
nothing to that person.
Yeah, exactly.
Prime example. So let's say my homie wears a collar. I think you're cool. I think what you guys have, the vibe is cool. If I wanted to be protected, like, do I go over to you and be like, hey,
you're brand new. Well, first of
do
all,
I wear a collar? Or like, how does someone who's a friend of the person you're subbing say, hey, I want to give this
I'm
a
sure
try.
you guys have that conversation before the party.
Well, exactly. So you're gonna have that. You're gonna have that conversation with your friend.
No, like I've talked to my friend. My friend's like,
friends.
oh, this is what's happening. How does someone approach then you because you're the dom?
Well, first of all,
does your friend bring you to the dom?
I'm so intrigued right now. This is so interesting.
That's gonna go. So if I have an existing relationship, I have a dom. I'm the dom and I have a submissive, and she's got my collar. I've already given her my collar. We've established that relationship. Now you're talking to your friend who is my submissive, and you're like, I'm really interested. I want to go to this party. You're gonna talk to my submissive. You're not gonna talk to me. Okay.
Yeah.
And she's gonna have to be the one that goes, well, listen, you know what? Let me talk to my dom, and you know what? We'll see if he's interested, and if he's interested, because at that point, I'm taking some measure of responsibility for that person's safety.
There's like a etiquette. There's like a way to do it.
I'm not gonna go like, oh yeah, here, let me slap a collar on you. Yeah, then run around the party with this collar on. No.
Yeah. That makes sense. I wasn't good.
Because that's completely pointless.
Yeah.
That collar has to have some meaning, but that meaning is determined by the people involved.
Exactly.
Now, some people have an ultra formal collar. You know what? They have a really strict relationship, a strict protocol. Some people are like, you know what? I put it on. You know what? That's kind of really all it is. And hang out for a little bit. And I look after you, or you're under my protection. And it may mean the very bare minimum. And sometimes even too, it kind of can tell other doms, listen, don't bother this submissive too much. You can talk to her, but you probably want to tread lightly because
it looks
like she's taken. She might not be taken,
but it looks like it.
But she can say at that time, you know what? She's talking to a dom. She likes him, and he's like, well, I noticed you have a collar on. You seems like what you're. And she could say, well, you know what? I'm under the protection of somebody tonight, but normally, I don't really have a collar, so I don't really have a steady dom or a permanent dom. And she can tell him, maybe we consider, talking and negotiating and kind of going through some of the safe things to make sure that, and the fact is if she's interested and she's under the protection of somebody else, they'll probably have that dom talk to the other dom.
Now, there's protocols, right? When you get into a relationship with somebody in this type of thing, there's things.
It depends on how much each person decides to adhere to those protocols. So one of the other things you can kind of look up is BDSM honorifics. And that's really great. So I've had submissives before who didn't really do anything with honorifics.
Yeah, honorifics is how one may identify themselves during sex. I don't know. That's what I got.
Yeah.
That's what
right? During sexual intercourse. Am I right?
So for some, it's it's sir, it's master, it's mistress, it's daddy or mommy. I think
That is so weird.
I've even heard goddess. I think I don't really know all of them, but
I have a question. If someone refers to somebody as a daddy or mommy, do they like is that necessarily like I'm trying to say this without offending the world? Daddy and mommy relationships, how do they start? Are they like people who have parent issues, or like I'm not trying to make any assumptions here. So I wouldn't throwing that disclaimer. I wouldn't make any
assumptions.
No assumptions
are made. It's not daddy-mommy relationship. It's either daddy and little girl or mommy and little boy.
Yeah, like you see it in Pornhub. Like it's on Pornhub, people. But, like I just don't understand like what is
some people dynamic. Say it, but I don't necessarily. I have come across it in your relationships where a female submissive, is a little bit younger and likes an older guy, and so. But I would say, my wife was 8 years older than me, and
she was.
Yeah.
No way. She looked good. And, guys, if I showed you pictures of his wife, she looked good. There's no way she 8 years older than him.
But there are times when she called me daddy. It wasn't really a regular part of our relationship, but there are times.
But like, I just don't understand what is being looked for when you're doing that?
So honorific.
Why not call somebody sir or ma'am? Why call someone mommy or daddy? Like,
I can't really answer that because, to me, it's about the person who's doing it. You know what? I mean, I guess
it's like the relationship how it feels.
I've spoken with some women who are like, I'm never calling anybody daddy.
I call them the bedroom.
I can't explain why one female submissive likes daddy, and then one female submissive.
No, because that's their preference.
It's their personal preference.
Kevin, I'm not getting tied up, by the way. I'm so sorry. Someone commented, I am not being tied up today. This is probably a 3 or 4 part series where he'll bring out his toys and shit, but I am not being tied up. So if you guys are watching because you think I'm being tied up, I'm not being tied up. Yeah.
Okay. Just so it's clear.
Just so it's clear, because there's a lot of comments of when the toys and the tying up is going to happen. I will not be tied.
We could discuss toys. We'll probably have to do that on another episode. There are a lot of toys out there.
I definitely want to see that.
Yeah.
So honorifics is basically the roles that are played.
Yes.
Basically.
Yes.
The roles that are played. So the roles are played. I mean, they're always kind of the same roles. One person doing.
That was my next question.
One person.
Does that change?
Do you ever receive? Because you're the dom. So do you ever receive?
Because you said you stayed as a dom. So that's what I'm saying.
If you look at my test results really indicate I'm not into receiving pain at all. I'm not interested.
Kevin.
I'm not interested in being tied up. I'm not interested in none of that stuff. But what gets me high, what gets me elevated, what gets me into what they sometimes refer to as a dom, space, is being a doer. You know what? It's not that I like spanking somebody or whipping somebody or doing something, but when I'm doing something to somebody that they are really enjoying and I'm doing it well, that just makes me super happy.
So then I think I'm a dom then. I gotta be a dom.
You definitely have to be a dom.
I can't be submissive. Like just the idea of being tied up. I think I want to
hit up by somebody.
I can't do it.
Hold on. I'm gonna say that's what they all say.
I'm gonna tell you backstory right here, Steph. I'm gonna put you out there. So she got hit up by a dom, right? She thought this
was a while ago.
A long time ago. She thought this one was fake. She was following her. 3 years later, the lady hits her up again. She's like, I really think you could be a dom. Now I'm telling her, she got that attitude.
This was like 3 years ago.
I've been friends with her since 2008, right? We met in 2008. And I thought she hated me for at least
but I never had the balls
5 years of those first years. Just because she would walk into a room and she'd automatically everybody would just
I say take the test.
Do it.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna take it. I'm gonna let you guys know next time I see you guys. I'm gonna let you know what happened.
But I'm gonna say one thing. And for the people who struggle a little bit with anxiety and people who struggle with fear, if you take the test with the idea that fear is your main driver, that's going to skew your results. If you take the test and you answer any of those submissive questions with the idea that you are with somebody you trust implicitly.
Biggest thing, trust. I have
Yep.
someone who commented, does the Dom only receive pleasure, or does he do pleasure as well? Because someone commented, so if the girl sucks a nigga until he nuts, is he Dom? Because then he will be a Dom. So can we please explain that? Do Doms only receive pleasure?
Isn't that like no?
I know it's no, but I would like the educated person to explain to people that he also doesn't.
So I would say no.
Sorry, I'm yelling. Sorry, guys.
But at the same time, could be yes.
All depending on the dynamic
really,
of the relationship.
I guess nobody really knows except them.
It depends on the roles. It depends on the dynamic, and it depends on what both people have, negotiated to do. So, for instance, I have been in situations where I played with a submissive female. No sex, no any type of
penetration or
no type of penetration,
oral.
no fingering, no oral,
Just play.
nothing, right? I merely spanked her, and she was really extremely happy with it. Now that doesn't mean that she didn't have a sexual response to that, but other than spanking her, I didn't do anything else. And so in that case,
we're definitely going to get into that one next episode, because I want to know how she came without penetration or fingering or any of that. But we'll get into that.
Only she knows that, though.
Because we got 9 minutes left of this one.
So it's certainly it certainly can happen, and you know what? So I could literally play with somebody where I did not get any gratification from that, but that doesn't mean I didn't enjoy it. That doesn't mean I didn't get excited about it.
But do you get to?
That's true. Only you know.
Like, if you're not penetrating or fingering or any of that, that would be normally considered in sex. I get that you like doing it, but what is your pleasure stimulate?
So my pleasure stimulates from, A, the trust, and B, what that person is kind of getting out of that. So I don't always see, and that's the thing. Honestly, I think, I think some doms, have this idea, whether male or female, doesn't really matter, have this idea that, listen, if I'm not getting gratification, I'm not doing it. And that's okay for them to negotiate up front and say, listen, I will not play with anybody unless I'm getting some type of sexual gratification. I'm getting that release. Okay. Other people, if I'm at a party and I'm playing with a kind of an ad hoc, submissive female who I know enough to say, hey, let's, you want to do some light play? And she doesn't have a partner. And she's like, yeah. You know what? Then I'm going to kind of keep things, at a level. But if we start having a discussion, she's like, well, I really want this, and I want to be fingered, I want oral, I want this. And I'm going to say, okay, well, all right. But then I have to evaluate, is that what I want to do? Do I want to do that at this party? Is that what I'm comfortable with? Both people have to be really thoughtful, and this is one of my kind of key sticking points is intentional. Intentional with your communication and intentional with what you're doing. You know what? Say what you're going to do. Follow through.
Yeah.
You cannot add anything new when you're playing. You know what?
Without discussion, right?
No. You discuss beforehand, but once play begins, you don't add anything new. Now, you could take things away. You could say at the beginning, like, listen, all right, I want you to spank me, and then, you know what, we're going to have sex and everything, and you know what, there's going to be blowjobs, there's going to be oral, all this stuff is going to go on, right?
Question.
Hold on. And then you start playing, and you get, she gets the spankings, and then she's like, you know what, I'm really not feeling the other stuff. I'm going to say no to that. And say, okay.
When I already started?
It's a respect.
Even if you've already started.
Yeah, you have to say no.
You have to say okay. Once that person says no, once that person says, listen, I'm not into this anymore. I don't feel good about it. It doesn't matter the reason. You stop.
Yeah, that makes sense.
What I will say is, you know what? Now, say a person I'm negotiating with, and she says, you know what? Okay, well, listen, I don't really want any sex. I do want the spankings. And we say, okay, you know what? We're gonna do that. Okay? So I do the spankings. And then after the spankings are done, she's like, you know what? I'm really turned on. She's like, I want to have sex now. You know what I say? Nope. Because you've now been spanked. You're now excited. You're now
Hi.
kind of drunk. You're now kind of high. You are now not thinking properly.
That makes sense.
Now, you can negotiate at the beginning and say you want it, but you cannot add it later. And that goes with just anything. That's not just sex. You know what? You're spanking her and she goes, you know what? I want you to whip me now. Nope, sorry.
That was
Didn't
my
We
discuss
didn't talk
that.
about that beforehand.
Yeah. And that makes sense because then if it gets done and the other person doesn't like it, then it's like a thing.
Yeah. And then my question was going to be,
Precisely.
if someone pulled out a dildo and someone said it's only spanking and tying,
And
they
that's
pull
what
out
he
a
was
dildo,
talking. And that's what he
that
said
you
from the
could
beginning
stop
about
because that's
boundaries.
not what was talked about and agreed
Right.
on, right?
Right.
Yeah, that was what I was gonna ask, because like that considers into stopping because that wasn't what was.
Because the whole point of the communication is to ensure that both parties have agreed. Because say for instance, the guy has an issue and he's like, listen, I'm married. We didn't discuss that because that wasn't really necessary in order for us to discuss spanking, because within my relationship I'm allowed to spank other people. But now you're like, oh, I want sex. And you're like, no, listen. You know what? We didn't really discuss that I was married, but what we negotiated, if we'd have had that conversation earlier, I would have told you, I'm married, I can't do that. Or, I have a relationship, I can't do that.
Yeah,
There's
it's true.
BDSM relationships without sexual intercourse, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, because
We
that's
didn't even get
another
into
common
that.
misconception that
You gotta write this down.
like you can have a consensual BDSM relationship without intercourse. So there is like you could do the actions to somebody, but doesn't mean you're.
Some people do online relationships. You know what? I'm not really a fan of it.
Nah.
In a period of time,
And like a human.
It's hard to keep up an online relationship. It requires a lot of attention.
It's like a job.
It certainly does. It requires a completely different mindset, and usually those are people who don't really have time for in-life relationships. Maybe they live in a remote area and they're like, listen, you know what? I want the anonymity. I want to be able to do it online. But I'm not really comfortable with, allowing somebody to do that to me. But you know what? They have those relationships. So
Yeah, that I wouldn't do that. Yeah.
I
So I
wouldn't
guess
either.
basically it's just about knowing what you want, basically.
And it's being
You gotta
comfortable
know.
and trusting in your partner.
True.
Yeah.
Trusting in who you're going to be with, because that's what I understood.
I like to say it this way. You know what? If I'm having a relationship with you and I'm saying, listen, you come over. You know what? We've met. We've talked. You know what? You feel comfortable. We're scheduling some time. You're gonna come over. We're gonna play together, right? And I say, I think the wine's kicking in. I say, I'm trying to dial back to what I was thinking. We're gonna practice, or we're gonna experiment. We're gonna do some spanking, something simple, and you come over, and we do that. I'm gonna kind of stick to that.
Well, we have like a minute and a half remaining, but next week we're gonna get into more of the in-depth version of it, because he has some like.
Please, everybody, submit your questions.
Yes, we
submit
questions to be given.
And we'll be happy
answered.
to discuss.
We're gonna go over fun stuff next week. So remember,
I'm gonna do given the information I given today. I'm gonna do my own
books.
research.
I'm waiting for my book to get to the house because
So I'll send you like my questions in advance so we could get into that.
Please,
because I'm gonna have a lot.
Questions in advance. I'll be able to have some answers.
Everybody send in your questions. If you have any questions,
Thank you so much. It was nice to meet you.
Like silly. Like
always be safe.
Yes.
Be safe.
Can
Don't
you
see
Stephanie? You will see the toys next week, Stephanie.
No, you cannot use my toys.
I'm not gonna use them. We're gonna show them.
No, there's a question that says, "Can I use your toys?"
Stephanie said, "Can I see your toys?"
No, we do not share toys. It's not sanitary.
Well, I use toys on other people, but I always sanitize.
But yeah, no, he has a wonderful collection of whips and probably handcuffs and God knows.
No handcuffs.
No handcuffs. I got the handcuffs. It's okay.
Handcuffs are for pretenders.
Ooh, so you're trying to say I'm a pretender? Ooh.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I don't want to.
I got
don't
some
know the
handcuffs.
idea.
You could
Call
get,
me
you
a
know what?
pretender?
You can get nerve damage with handcuffs.
I got the
I'm
ones
not
that you can
trying to-
unclick in the middle, though. Like, it's like a...
I don't like that.
I use rope or real leather cuffs.
Oh, yeah, no. And then we're going to go into a whole
can't get
nother
out of
week
those.
tying shit, because this one knows how to tie, and I'm not being tied up. We're
A
going to have
little bit.
We're going to have an alternating person here to get
All
tied
I'm
up.
thinking
Tied
about
up,
is the
tied up,
Rihanna
people.
song.
You are?
Yeah, I'm going to find a girl to get tied up, because I ain't getting tied
and-
up. We'll ask Shannon to get tied up.